Let's do this the right way so I can see. Greetings to the 12 tribes of Israel, scattered, dispersed, but not destroyed. My name is Yemi'el ben Yehuda. I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to the truth. We are a part of the Waking Remnant Coalition, Dallas. It is a great and holy Shabbat day. We're glad to be here with you as we've been studying for the last week the book of Esther. It has been a blessing to be able to dive into the word of the Most High and to take out these bits and pieces. And I hope that they have touched you and have moved you and have galvanized you in your walk. Um, Excuse me, technical difficulties. But we are, okay, there we go. We are definitely glad to be here, spending time with you on the Shabbat as we're looking into this book. Now, we on last week, just to recap, in chapter 1, it talks about the condition that Israel was in, how they ended up being where they were at, and the situation around those events at this time. And as we go into it, we're going to get to see how Israel needs a savior. Israel needs to be redeemed. And Yah uses who Yah uses to accomplish a goal. And so we're about to see how Yah takes an orphan girl, turned into a concubine, and makes her a queen. And because she is now the queen of that land, she saves her people. Um, I don't want y'all to get things mixed up because I know a lot of times in the book we always punch down, and I'm gonna say this, fellas, we tend to punch down on women, and so I'm not trying to usurp the roles, but there is leadership throughout the body, from Deborah. There's just Miriam, there's leadership. We're not usurping authority, but we see that there are leaders, no matter what position or what role they play in life, there's leadership. And so it is a blessing to see how she interacts with her uncle because she's an orphan, how she interacts with her uncle and how her obedience leads us into salvation. And many of us, we are placed in a situation where we have to listen to authority. And if we listen to authority, it may lead us into a better goal, but a lot of times we overlook authority. And so when Joseph comes up, we're going to go over this chapter, and I hope and pray that you are blessed just as much as I've been. Y'all, if I tap out, charge it to my head, charge it to my head, not my heart. I'm getting old, and I got like Pops on Friday. I got them bad guts, and sometimes you got to tap out. Too much information, I understand, but I'm going to allow Yosef to do some teaching today as well as me, and we're going to um, just share what we get out of this chapter. And I hope that you're reading ahead each week, because what this is doing, these Bible studies, what we're doing is we're trying to get our people to read the scripture, to go through from Genesis to Revelation, and using not only Torah, but using the Apocrypha and even some what we would call non-canonical books. Let me touch that real quick while we're waiting on Yosef to come up. And if anybody has an opportunity, send a text to Yosef because I know he may be asleep. Who decides what canon is a very tricky subject because I don't want to rely on my captor to tell me what my books say. If we depend on the one who perverted the word to write themselves into the scriptures to tell us what is canon and what is not, then are we truly listening from the Ruach? So this is one of the things that I would tell you, and coming from a church background, a biblical background in the church, a pastoral background, I would not read outside of the 66 because I felt like they were non-canonical. But what I've learned since I left the church and entered into this truth is that there's nuggets, there's a lot of things that I miss that glued what I learned in reading just the 66 books. It bridged gaps. How would I know from Malachi to Matthew, what went on in those 400 years if I would not have read the Apocrypha books? You know, we have to understand that a lot of times when we don't read other books, we don't get the full understanding. People tell you not to read Jasher, but they quote out of it in the scriptures because they feel like the stories don't match. I would tell each of you that when you read, allow the Ruach to tell you what's true and what's not, because you're missing out just by a bias that you weren't even born into, a bias that your captor gave you, because if they told the whole story, they couldn't lie. Just like now that I've read, the Maccabees, now I can understand when Paul says, neither Jew nor Greek, neither bond nor free, what he was talking about. Because I would have thought he was talking about actual Greek people. And it was staring me right in the face the whole time. Paul said he was a Grecian. He was Greek. He was Hellenized. And so when you start reading the scriptures and you remove that word Greek and place the real word Hellen, and you realize he was talking about Hellenized Jews, then you realize that Paul wasn't going to any nation. He was going to the Gentiles, those of us who were Hellenized, who hadn't been circumcised, who hadn't been keeping the feast days, who haven't studied Torah, who have lack of understanding of the scripture. Those folks were Paul's target audience. Now, I'm not saying that some regular Romans didn't hear the word and have a change of heart. I'm not saying that, but that was not Paul's target audience. A lot of times when you look at the scriptures and you read Paul's writings, he went to the synagogue first. So, I would tell y'all, don't be afraid to read the extra canonical books, but read them with the understanding that you need guidance by the Ruach to be able to understand if some of it's real or not, because there are some things that may not make sense to you. So, Shabbat Shalom, Aki.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
How you been this morning?
I'm
Or
doing well
you got me messed up this afternoon.
this afternoon.
um, since we're going into the season of Purim, just to let y'all know, next Monday, the 22nd of March, 21st, sorry, the 2nd of March is Purim. Starts at sunset, goes on into the next day at sunset. Um, I hope that each and every one of you start. All you have to do is cook a food and have your family around. We're going to spend some time with Brother Malak and his lovely wife at their house for Purim this year. Everybody's going to bring a dish and we're going to get down like we always do when it comes to food. So I'm going to now turn everything over to Yosef Ben Israel or Ben Yasharel and let him have it from here. Hold on. That's not what I wanted.
Shabbat Shalom, family. This is Joseph Ben Yisrael of the RPFW coming to you on this holy Shabbat. Again, giving all praises and honor to the Most High for his grace and his mercy. And he has allowed us another week since we last met. And we just thank him for life, health, and strength. We thank him for the grace and favor. We thank him for his mercies which are new every morning. And we give him thanks and glory, for he is the creator, the one who created the heavens and earth in 6 days. On the seventh day, he rested. On that sixth day, he breathed into us the breath of life, breathed into mankind, the breath of life, and we became living souls. He is the God and Father of our of Hamashiach, Yeshua Hamashiach, who is our Savior, who is our Redeemer, who is our kinsman Redeemer, who is our advocate and our intercessor, for the one who shed his blood on that tree, on that cross, for us, for the redemption of our sins, and he is our soon coming King. We give him glory and honor today, and to the Ruach Hakodesh, the Spirit of a living, the Spirit of Yah, the one who indwells us, the one who has sealed us until the day of redemption, the one who brings to our remembrance the things that we have learned, the one who fills us, and the one who he fills us, he energizes us and empowers us to do his will, do his work. We thank Yah for the for his spirit, for the Ruach HaKodesh. And we give thanks to Yah for all of you, those of you who are on right now, those of you who will be coming on in the next few minutes, hours or so, or those of you who will catch any portion of this message on the Holy Shabbat. We continue in prayer for you, and we ask that you continue in prayer for us. And we're just excited and thrilled and delighted to be here with you, to be able to continue our study in the book of Esther. This book that coming up on the season, or the observance of Purim, gives us some background, gives us a cultural and a historical and a cultural context to why Purim is celebrated amongst Yah's people. And so we are always appreciative of Yah and humbled that he has allowed us this time to come and to share in his word. And we hope and pray, as we always say, that you are reading the scriptures for yourselves. And the Ruach is able to enlighten and illuminate his word to all of us, but we've got to read his word. The scriptures say, the scriptures where Paul in his writings encourages us to study, to show thyself, Let me emphasize. He says, study to show thyself approved unto Yah, a workman, a workwoman that need not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. And so we encourage all of you. We encourage everyone to read the scriptures for themselves. And so we are here, and we're going to begin at chapter 2. Yemi, you want to, how much you want to read, or what? How do you want to handle this?
It's all up to you.
Okay,
I'm traveling.
okay. So let's start at chapter 2. We're going to read chapter 2, and we're going to read the entire chapter. We're trying to get through this thing, so we're going to go ahead and read the entire chapter. It's I believe 23 verses. So you all bear with us, read along with us as we read the scriptures. Esther chapter 2. says, after these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus was appeased, he remembered Vashti and what she had done and what was decreed against her. Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, let there be fair young virgins sought for the king, and let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather together all the fair young virgins unto Shushan the palace, to the house of the women, unto the custody of Hedge, the king's chamberlain, keeper of the women, and let their things be for purification. Let their things for purification be given them. And let the maiden which pleaseth the king be queen instead of Vashti. And the thing pleased the king, and he did so. Now in Shushan the palace there was a certain Jew whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, a Benjamite, who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity which had been carried away with Jeconiah, the king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away. And he brought up Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother, and the maid was fair and beautiful, whom Mordecai, when her father and mother were dead, took for his own daughter. So it came to pass, when the king's commandment and his decree was heard, and when many maidens were gathered together unto Shushan the palace, to the custody of Hegai, that Esther was brought also unto the king's house, to the custody of Hegai, keeper of the women. And the maiden pleased him, and she obtained kindness of him. And he speedily gave her things for her purification, with such things as belonged to her, and 7 maidens which were meet were to be given her out of the king's house, for he preferred her and her maids unto the best place of the house of the women. Esther had not showed her people nor her kindred, for Mordecai had charged her that she should not show it. And Mordecai walked every day before the court of the women's house to know how Esther did and what should become of her. Now, when every maid's turn was to come to go to King Ahasuerus after she had been 12 months, according to the manner of women, for so were the days of their purifications accomplished, to wit, 6 months with oil of myrrh, and 6 months with sweet odors, and with other things for the purifying of the women. Then thus came every maiden unto the king, whatsoever she desired was given to her to go with her out of the house of the women unto the king's house. In the evening she went, and on the morrow she returned into the second house of the women, to the custody of Sheagaz, the king's chamberlain, which kept the concubines. She came in unto the king no more, except the king delighted in her, and that she were called by name. Now in the turn of Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her for his daughter, was come to go in unto the king. She required nothing but what Hegai, the king's chamberlain, the keeper of the women, appointed. And Esther obtained favor in the sight of all them that looked upon her. So Esther was taken unto King Ahasuerus, unto his house royal in the 10th month, which is in the month Tebet, in the 7th year of his reign. And the king loved Esther above all the women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins, so that he set the royal crown upon her head, and he made her queen instead of Vashti. Then the king made a great feast unto all his princes and his servants, even Esther's feast, and he made a release to the provinces and gave gifts according to the state of the king. And when the virgins were gathered together the second time, then Mordecai sat in the king's gate. Esther had not yet showed her kindred nor her people, as Mordecai had charged her. For Esther did the commandment of Mordecai like as when she was brought up with him. In those days, while Mordecai sat in the king's gate, two of the king's chamberlains, Bigthan and Teresh, of those which kept the door, were wroth and sought to lay hand on King Ahasuerus. And the thing was known to Mordecai, who told it unto Esther the queen. And Esther certified the king thereof in Mordecai's name. And when inquisition was made of the matter, it was found out. Therefore they were both hanged on a tree, and it was written in the book of Chronicles before the king. Hallelujah. So that is the conclusion of the reading of Esther chapter 2. And just a real quick review, last week we were introduced in the book of Esther chapter 1. We were introduced to King Ahasuerus, excuse me. He was the king of the Medes and the Persians, along with his wife Vashti, and how he had, during his reign, he was wanting to present his wife before the people, had a great feast, a great party, a great fellowship, however you want to describe it. Wanted to present his wife before the people, and Vashti refused. And in that refusal, she, to make a long story short, in that refusal, she forfeited her position, her status as queen, and she was deposed. She
That's
was
the
put away.
nice way. That's the nice way of saying it.
Yeah, she was put away. So this was the setting and the context in which Esther is introduced in chapter 2. The story of Esther. How after Vashti was deposed or put away, the king had remembered his decree and set about to find another queen. Okay, and so that's where we are here in chapter 2. And so there was a search. There was a search party sent out amongst the king's offices in all of the provinces of his kingdom. They went out and they gathered all the fair or beautiful or lovely young virgins, summoned them or had them summoned to the palace, and they were being I don't want to use that word. It's just too they were being prepared to meet the king. And we are introduced to there in verse 5. We're looking at verse 5. Mordecai, a Jew or Hebrew, who was the son of Jair, the son of Shimei. He was a Benjamite. He was of the tribe of Benjamin, who had been carried away from Jerusalem. So what we're reading here in verse 6 says, who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity, which had been carried away with Jeconiah of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away. And so what we're finding out about Mordecai is Mordecai was more than likely around the same age as Daniel and the Daniel and Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael, who we know, the slave, we know them by their slave names, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So Mordecai had he had been taken from Israel, and had basically had grown up and had matured and grown old. He was an elder at this time, at this particular time. There in it been under Nebuchadnezzar's reign, and after Nebuchadnezzar, of course, we understand after the Babylonian captivity, the Medes and the Persians took over, as Daniel prophesied in his book, in his prophecy, that the Medes and the Persians were going to follow after the Babylonians. And so here we are under the rule of the Medes and the Persians with Mordecai. Mordecai was the uncle of Hadassah, who we know as Esther. See, nothing has changed. Once you coming into this captivity, they change your name. They attempt to change erase your history, your heritage. Uh, all of this is what Esther was up under. Matter of fact, she had been instructed by Mordecai, don't promote the fact that you are a Jew. Don't promote the fact that you're a Hebrew. Don't bring it up. You don't want to lie, but don't bring it up. And so as we're reading this, listen, y'all, I want us to understand this, because a lot of the argument or the accusation against us is that we're stuck on it's about colors, not about color, y'all. Because listen, under the first three or four captivities, we were being taken into captivity by folk that look like us. The Esther was here in amongst the Medes and the Persians, and unless she told you she was a Jew, you wouldn't know, because Ahasuerus and the Medes and the Persians were so-called black. Everybody was black. So you couldn't tell the difference unless they told you what their nationality was. You really could. It wasn't about skin color. It was about what covenant we were under. Okay. It ain't never been about skin color. Skin color is a diversion. Skin color is a demonic deception or a distraction that the enemy has used in these modern times. But it's all about the covenant. Mordecai was of the tribe of Benjamin. Benjamin was the baby boy of Jacob. The father made covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so the color was inconsequential, because Ahasuerus and the Medes and the Persians at this particular point in time, they was so-called black as well. But Esther, or Hadassah, was a daughter of Israel. She was the Israelite. She was a Hebrew. She she was an orphan. Her mother and her father at this point had passed away. Had made transition. Her uncle Mordecai came in and took care of her and made her and basically adopted her. We see that in verse 7. So he brought up Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother. The maid was fair and beautiful. Describes her as a beautiful woman, as a fair and beautiful woman, beautiful young woman. And she became Mordecai's own daughter. And so what we're seeing here is in the initial phases of chapter 2, we see, even though Yah's name is not mentioned in this book, we see his providence, and he making provision for his own. We see his providence and him making provision for his covenanted people. That he had given this young woman favor. He had bestowed grace upon her. So as we look at verses 8 through 11, we see that the maidens and the virgins were coming from all over, and they were being taken care of. They were being provided for, and they were being brought before, at this point, Haggai, the keeper of women, and she obtained favor before him. And it's the same, as you're reading this, those of us that read the scriptures, you see the parallel between Esther, the way Esther is spoken of here in this book. You see the parallel that Joseph had the same experience. That when Joseph was by his brother sold into slavery, excuse me, he was sold into slavery, ended up in Egypt. He met Potiphar, and Potiphar, one of Pharaoh's servants, uh, Joseph obtained favor amongst all of the prisoners, amongst all of the slaves, amongst all of his peers. He obtained favor, and the Father, Yah, has a way of granting us favor, favor amongst those who don't even know Him. But those of us that walk with Yah will find ourselves gaining favor with those who are outside. That's why you don't write anybody up. You don't we can't dismiss folk because of who they are. Y'all know how we do it. You know how they do the prejudice and the prejudice, and just the what do they call it, the other word for prejudice, the stereotype, you know. But this woman, this young virgin had obtained favor with the king's, with the officer that was over all of the maids. He obtained favor, and this favor came from Yah because of not just her beauty, but her character. I need us. We got to catch this. It was her character. And how do we know she was a woman of character? She was a woman of character because she obeyed her parents or her adopted parents. She was obedient. So whatever Mordecai told her to do, when Mordecai told her, listen, Hadassah, listen, Esther, don't uh, don't run around telling everybody you're Hebrew. Don't run around telling everybody you're Israelite. Don't run around telling folk that you're of the tribe of Benjamin. Don't even, just let that be. Just be who you are. You're a beautiful young woman. You're a lovely young woman. You're a woman of favor, and you're a woman who walks up under the providential grace of Yah. Let that be your covering. Let that be your let that be how you are identified. And so, out of all of the women, out of all of the provinces of the Medes and the Persians, there in modern day Iran, Iraq, Esther was chosen. Remember, we know that Yah is in control of all things, but Yah is in control of all things, and Yah is able to give us favor among those who are outside, or those who would be oppressors, or would be enemies or adversaries. Yah gave Esther favor in the midst of these people, and He's still doing the same thing today. For those of us who walk in obedience, for those of us who honor Him, for those of us who honor, if there's any children on here or any young folk, those who honor your elders, who honor your parents and your elders, the Father says it's going to be well with you. And it went well with Esther because, again, honor your father and mother, that it may be well with you. And this is what's happening with Esther. And this is what will happen with us when we walk in honor, and we walk in order, and we walk in obedience. The Father will give us grace. The Father will give us favor. He's doing it for Esther right now, and He'll do the same for us. And so Esther had not showed her people. She didn't talk about her lineage. She didn't talk about her history. She didn't talk about her heritage. She didn't talk about her culture. She didn't talk about her people. She never brought it up. She just let the grace and favor of the Most High, her beauty and her character, be the calling card that attracted favor and grace. talks about how when I'm reminded of how when Yeshua was growing up, how it talks about there in the gospel, it talks about that he grew and he grew strong, he grew in stature and in favor before both Yah and men. That those of us who walk with Yah and those of us who filled with the Ruach and those of us who are led by the Ruach, listen, eh, eh, listen, Yah has a way of allowing us to be not only have favor with him, but have favor with men. And we see this shaping up in Esther's life. So we look at verse 12 as we walk through this. It was every maid's turn to go in before the king. Some folk called it, some have characterized it as a beauty pageant, but it wasn't a beauty pageant. This was this was the king's prerogative. This was the privilege that a king had, that he picked who he wanted. And all of these women who had been taken in, who had been brought in and prepped and prepared to go before the king. 12 months, according to Manner of Women. They were for so were the days of purification accomplished to wit, 6 months of oil of myrrh, and 6 months of sweet odors, and other things for the purifying of women. I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna be real diplomatic about this. I'm gonna try to be as diplomatic as I can. You know who these people are, because they were about being clean, and they were about keeping themselves clean. And they had protocols and procedures for hygiene, and they took hygiene and cleanliness. They put a premium on hygiene and cleanliness. Come on, somebody. They put a priority on hygiene and cleanliness. This was a mark of our people. Placed a very high premium on cleanliness and hygiene and presenting yourself in a certain way. And in this case, especially the women especially the women. And again, this I keep going back to Joseph, because Joseph did the same thing. When Joseph was in prison and he was being prepped to go before the king because he had been identified as someone who could reveal dreams, it said he cleaned himself up. He was a son of Jacob. He was an Israelite. He was a Hebrew, and they weren't to shave, but he was going before an Egyptian king, and they had different. They had a different, and as a slave, as a bondman, as a prisoner, he understood the culture. He was coming to understand the culture of the Egyptians, so he prepared himself to go before the king. And this is what's happening with Esther. She was being prepped and prepared to go before the king, and all of these women, all of these young women went before the king, and it talks about how how her name was called. She was prepared. She was prepared and had presented herself in a certain way so that when her name was called, she was ready. She said, if you stay ready, how does it go? If
You
you stay
stay
ready,
ready, you don't
you
have to
won't have
get
to
ready.
get ready. So she wasn't getting ready. She wasn't standing in front of a mirror trying to, no, she was ready. She was already ready. That we want to be ready when our time comes for whatever the Father has called us to, for whoever He has called us to interact with. We want to be ready. And so she went before the king. She returned into the second house of the women, the custody of Sheagaz, this king's chamberlain, which kept the concubines. She came into the king no more, except the king delighted in her, and that she was called by name. I'm in verse 14. That she made such an impression upon the king. She didn't do anything extra. She wasn't trying to be extra. She wasn't making no demands. She wasn't going in and making any special requests or special favors. She was prepared. She presented herself as a beautiful woman, beautiful young woman. And when she went in before the king, even the king took delight in her and remembered her name. And so not only does not for those of us who walk with him, walk with Yah, walk with his son, and walk in the Ruach. See, the Father is able, not only does the Father know our name, but the Father, he is the one who turns and changes the hearts and minds of the sons of men. And so when Ahasuerus saw Hadassah or Esther, she made an impression upon him. So much so that he remembered her name. Can you all just imagine? I'm just going to throw a number out there because we don't know. Maybe out of 1,000 women, because they went throughout all the provinces, and out of 1,000 women who had come before the king, and they were all beautiful, they were all pretty, but Esther made such an impression upon the king that the king remembered her name. The king took delight in her and remembered her name. See, this is Yah at work, working his providence, working his providence. As she was prepped, and she was prepared, and she presented herself as a fair young virgin, a woman of a woman of character, a woman of integrity, a woman of obedience, a woman of order, a woman who respected authority, a young woman who obeyed her elders, obeyed her parents, obeyed the instructions that had been given to her, a woman of humility. These are the attributes that made her stand out. And these are the attributes that will cause us, the people of Yah, to stand out, to be people of integrity, to be people who are honest, to be people who are humble, to be people who are servants, to be people who are obedient. Don't tell me nothing about you a child of Yah and you serve Yah, but you go to work, you can't get along with nobody, you can't follow none of the instructions that your employers give you. Well, if you're not going to do that, be an entrepreneur. But don't go on these people's jobs telling them what to do and what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. That's not Yah. Now as we go in, I'm speaking to employees. See, some of you all are entrepreneurs and you run your own thing, and that's well and good. But for those of us that are employers, the way you gain employees, the way you can gain favor, go in and be a servant. Go in and do excellent work. Go in and be a person who a person who is presentable, a person who is engaging, a person who is a person of integrity, a person who can be trusted, a person who when someone confides in you or someone shares something with you that the information is not in the street, a person who is not walking in seeking special favors and speaking or seeking seeking all types of cutting corners and all these types of things, but people who are prepared. This is what Esther has done, and she caught the eye of the king. Not just because of her beauty, not because of her presence, but because Yah had moved on her behalf. We want to be the type of people that Yah moves on our behalf in the minds and the imagination of men, of those who are outside. So verse 15, we're in verse 15 through 20. We're looking at verses 15 through 20 as we walk through the second chapter of Esther. That uh, again, she was taken before the king uh, in the 10th month, which is the month Tebeth. Taken before the king into his own royal house. Look at verse 17. And the king loved Esther above all the women, and she obtained, y'all catch this, she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins, so that he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. That phrase is she obtained grace and favor. We want to live our lives. We want to conduct ourselves in such a way. We want to present ourselves in such a way as we go out into the world, as we go out, as we carry ourselves at home or even outside, whether it be at work or whether it be in recreation or whatever we're engaged in, obtaining the grace and favor, or obtaining grace and favor. Grace and favor doesn't come from men. Grace and favor comes from Yah. So that folk look at it, something about that guy, something about something about that man, something about that woman, something about that young man, something about that young woman, something about that elder, something about something about that elder sister, something about her. Folks that don't even know Yah, folks that don't even follow Yah. Yah gives grace and favor to us. For those of us who walk in humility, walk in integrity, he will bestow upon us the grace and favor before men. And so, verse 17, and the king loved Esther above all the women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins, so that he set a crown upon her head. He gave her authority. He made her, she was the one. And he was so happy. He was so happy and so pleased, and she was such a blessing to him, that he made a great feast. And I don't know whether he named it after her, but that's what it says in verse 18. It says, and the king made a great feast unto all his servants, even Esther's feast. I don't know if he named it after her, but it was all about her. And he made a release to all the provinces and gave gifts. So the king created a holiday, and the release is he gave everybody. It made it a national holiday. So he made a national holiday.
Esther Luther King Day.
King was so happy and so pleased and so blessed by Esther, by Hadassah, that he made a great feast, made a national holiday. And then, listen, y'all check this out. The king gave gifts. The king gave gifts to the people. He made a holiday, and instead of the people bringing gifts to him, he gave gifts to the people. This is the promise, y'all. Check this out. This is why you gotta know the scriptures, so you understand how our people, how our ancestors, and even ourselves operate under the covenant of Abraham. The father promised Abraham, he said, your seed is going to be a blessing, going to be a light, going to be a blessing to all nations. They're going to be a light to the Gentiles. Wherever I send you, this is going to be one of the characteristics of who you are. Wherever you go, you're going to be a blessing. You're going to shine a light. Wherever you go, wherever I send you. Because remember, Esther is in captivity in under the Medes and the Persians until Ahasuerus set that crown upon her head. She was in bondage. She was a slave. But she couldn't help who she was. She knew who she was. She didn't flaunt it. She didn't even mention it. But the evidence could not be hid. The evidence of the fact that she was a daughter of the covenant. She was a daughter that abided under the Abrahamic covenant. The whole nation got blessed. The king giving out. Whoever heard that of the king or the president or the prime minister giving out gifts to the citizens? But even then, it says that when the virgins were gathered together the second time, then Mordecai sat in the king's gate. And so at this point, Mordecai, see, sitting at the gate. When you sit at the gate, that means that you were somebody. It's just anybody in the Eastern cultures, including our culture, and under the Eastern cultures, those who sat at the gate, they were prominent people, and so Mordecai himself was a man of prominence, was a man of importance. But even then, we're not anywhere near the end of the story. But Esther had not, she still hadn't revealed her kindred nor her people. Because she remembered, y'all catch this now, she remembered the instructions that Mordecai gave her. She says, my uncle Mordecai, my adopted father, I can't forget the instructions that he gave me. I can't forget the teaching and the training that he gave me. See, and that's the key for us. We can't forget. We can't allow ourselves to ever get to the point when we forget the words and the instructions and the commandments and the decrees and the word that we receive from the patriarch, from the father, from Yah, the patriarchs and the prophets. Keep them in mind and walk in them. So Esther at this point she still has not revealed who she was. For Esther did the commandment of Mordecai. She kept Mordecai's commandments, like as when she was brought up with him. She has the crown on her head now, y'all. Y'all catch this. She's queen now. She can do what she wants to do, except not show up when the king calls
including kill Mordecai.
her. That's the only thing. Don't be like Vashti. But she was queen. But she remembered. She did not forget. She never forgot, no matter how high she rose in that hierarchy or in that society amongst the Medes and the Persians. She still remembered the commandments, the words that her adopted father, her uncle Mordecai, gave her, and she did not at this point reveal who she was. And so we find out in verse 21 through 23, there was a plot against the king. Two of the king's chamberlain, they worked for the king. They worked under the king. They were hot. They were upset. More than likely, now this is not in the scripture. This is me. More than likely, this is me, y'all. Remember, this is me. More than likely, they were loyalists, or they were loyal. They were upset or hot about what had happened to King Vashti. See, don't ever think that because the Father blesses you or He shows you favor or grace that everyone is happy about it. There's always some folk that are hot, that are mad, especially when the Father takes his children, takes His people, and He elevates them. There's some folks that don't like it, and so these two men they wanted to assassinate the king. There was a plot to assassinate the king. Mordecai's at the gate. Mordecai finds out about it. And one thing we found out about Mordecai and Esther as we draw to a close here, we find out about Mordecai, and then we find out about his daughter Esther, his adopted daughter, his niece, his adopted daughter. They were people of wisdom. Y'all catch this. They were people of wisdom and discretion. Wisdom and discretion. You all remember how Jesus told his disciples. He says, Yeshua told his disciples, "Be wise as serpents, harmless as doves." And so Mordecai finds out the plot, but Mordecai doesn't break protocol and try to go before the king. But Mordecai knew somebody who had access to the king. And Mordecai gave the news to Esther. Esther gave news to the king, gave the news or the news of the plot to the king. See, Esther, she's a blessing even now, even at this point. She's a blessing. Actually, to some extent, probably saving the king from an assassination attempt or even being assassinated. She's a blessing. She's a daughter of Benjamin. She's of the tribe of Benjamin, who was a son of Jacob, who was a son of Jacob, son of Isaac, a daughter of Isaac, daughter of Jacob, daughter of Isaac, daughter of Abraham, who abided under the covenant and could not help but be a blessing to anyone who came into her purview or anyone who was in and among her. She was going to be a blessing to that person. She was a blessing to Ahasuerus, king, to the king, even to the point of um, even to the point of foiling an assassination attempt. And so, as we come to the close of chapter 2, the inquisition was made of the matter. It was found out, therefore, they were both hanged on a tree. And it was written in the book of the Chronicles before the king. And so, even at this point, the grace and the favor, Yah's providence rested upon Esther because she was obedient, she was humble, she was prepared. She presented herself with grace and favor as a fair and a beautiful woman, not just in appearance, but she was a fair and a beautiful person. And Yah blessed her. And here's the great
Hallelujah.
news. Yah is no respecter of person. When we walk like this, when we walk in discretion and integrity and wisdom, there's no limit to what Yah can. There's no limit to how high or how far or how fast He can elevate us before men.
Hallelujah.
That is the end of chapter 2. That's the end of our walk um, through Esther chapter 2.
Hallelujah. Y'all, if you didn't get anything out of this part of this lesson, remember, obedience leads to blessing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And when you are blessed, the people around you are
Yes.
blessed. And so Just because you listened, not nothing they did, but because you are blessed, they get a runoff.
Mhm.
This country is blessed
Yes.
because we're here.
Yes.
Not nothing they did.
In,
Listen,
in,
y'all,
in spite of.
in spite of what they've done to us, they are blessed because, listen, even in your hardship, there has to be a certain level. He, he can't destroy you. Listen, y'all, he can pull you down. Y'all can pull you down, but he'll never destroy us because of the words that he kept with Abraham. So in that, there has to be some favor.
Yes.
Um, I thank you, Joseph, for the lesson today. I was thinking about something while you were talking, and I want to share this with y'all because it's poignant to the conversation. Think of all the things that we have done in this country, and President Trump gave a speech, and he named off all these devices and instruments and innovations that were created.
Mm-hmm.
And he ended it by saying, and we made it. But everything that he named off was created or invented by somebody that looks like us.
Yeah.
Everything that he named off and created. He blesses us so well that our enemies take credit for what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, they don't want you singing country music. You invented country music. You invented the you invented the banjo.
Yeah.
And so even in your captivity, there's a level of blessing. Because his thing is not to destroy you, but to correct you.
Yes.
His thing is to lead you to back to him. And if you don't put breadcrumbs out showing you the way, you'll never make it.
Right.
So, y'all, I want y'all to understand this that even in Esther's situation, y'all left breadcrumbs. I mean, listen, Mordecai didn't have to be at the gate when the plot was talked about. Today, Mordecai would be called a snitch. Mordecai, like, ooh, I'm telling. But because Mordecai told his niece slash daughter, now the whole nation is blessed. You understand what I'm saying? So I thank y'all for the lesson, Joseph. I thank you for the words that you shared with us. And next week we'll be going into chapter 3, same book, book of Esther, chapter 3. And as we go into these books, man, the story is a soap opera.
Yeah.
You know, the story is like watching Telemundo. It's good. You may not understand it, but it's good. It looked like it's good. So you may not understand their situations, but I'm here to tell you, man, this is a good story.
Yeah.
And it teaches a lot of lessons. So, there anything else you want to say before we close?
That's it. All
Uh,
praises to the Most High.
y'all, if you live here in Texas and you get a chance to go to an HEB, just go. I'm not paid by them, but Yosef will tell you. I found some beef bacon the other day, y'all.
I thought we were gonna make. I honestly thought we were gonna make it without you cutting up But he laughed. Y'all just do what the man say. Just go.
Just go. I mean, I lived in Austin for 7 years, and I know how good HEB is. But when you've been without
Yeah,
for as long as I done been without being here in Dallas,
yeah,
ah, boy, I'm talking about. I saw beef bacon, and all I heard was the gates of heaven open up, and I heard harps, and some light shining down. I think they had a spotlight in there or something. It shined down on the beef bacon. Like glory. They ain't had no all beef andouille sausage. I got close. I saw beef andouille sausage. I picked it up, and some said, "Put it back." I
yeah.
said, "I will not."
It's got
And
that
I
pork
turned the
casing on it. Yeah,
pork case.
yeah.
Dog.
You didn't
Why
find
can't?
Earl Campbell?
Oh yeah, they did too, but I didn't mess with them. I didn't mess with it. I was on the budget.
Okay, okay.
It's near the end of the month, and I only get paid once a month. It was uh,
Yeah.
yeah. They calling me too. So on the 1st of February, I mean the 1st of March, I got some beef spare ribs, bone out. I mean some beef short ribs, bone out.
Uh-huh.
I cooked them yesterday. Bruh, your brother been cooking so much, man. I've been clowning.
Mm.
I made a stew using them jokers, and then I put so many onions in it that when they cook down, it made the stew sweet.
Okay.
That hint of sweetness that an onion will give you, a yellow onion will give you.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, y'all knows my heart. He know I love food. He know I love it. I've been cooking white beans. HEB just got me up here an inch away from being a glutton.
Yeah.
But yeah, y'all get a chance, go to an HEB and just go in there with an open wallet, with a credit card or a debit card and an open mind. You will leave there with a basket full. April said she went to Walmart around the corner. She said it was ghost town.
Yeah. Yeah.
They ran out, boy. If HEB get an automotive department, it's over. All right, y'all. I done my laughing for today. I hope that y'all enjoyed your Shabbat class. We will see you on next week. Y'all say the same. Until then, we love you and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.